And welcome on in, everybody. Welcome on in. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name is Digital Dragon, otherwise known as Luke, and I am a 3D print and streaming channel here on Twitch. We do everything from building 3D printers to printing cosplay items with the 3D printers. And today we are going to be continuing our build of a Voron 2.4 kit from LDO Motors. So we're just going to give it a couple of seconds for people to sneak on in here, and we will get started. Let's see. Hey, Pez Liz, how are you doing? Just saw you sneak in. Hope you're doing well. Good. Yeah, hype it on up. So, where we have gone in the last couple of streams is we built the, let me kind of switch cameras. We've built our frame up. We built the frame, the Z motors, we installed the Z linear rails and the Z idlers. And that was the first stream. In part two, we built our A and B or X and Y gantry system here. We started off building our idler, our front idlers, and then our A and B motors, and then finished off with our X axis. I have gone in here and kind of de-racked it. Really what it was moving the rail forward and back and then setting the distance on this middle rail. I did this after stream yesterday. And then I did go through and print the new piece that we needed. This will go on this side on the top, and this will be the cable drag chain mount. And so what we needed was the 2-hole version because they use the IGUS cable chains. But I've left this off. I didn't bother to put this on just yet because it will be a little bit easier not having it on one side, because then I'd have to put boxes under it to keep it where it's at. So we'll add this in a little bit. So yeah, progressing on in, what we're planning on doing today is doing the belts, adding the Z-axis belts to our 4 corners on our gantry. And then we're going to bring the frame up here. We'll mount our Z bearing blocks and get some stoppers up underneath them so that they're all at the same height. And then we will go through and do up our Z belts on our Z axis. Hey, Chewy, how's it going? Once we get our Z axis done, then we will be working on the belts for our A and B motors, which will also involve putting our X carriage on, which in this case, we're going to be using a Chaotic Labs CNC tap. So this is another area where we're going to deviate ever so slightly from the build. The first thing that we did was we added titanium backers to our gantries. And that will be just to minimize any bowing or warping of our X and Y gantries during the thermal heat up and cool down cycles. So because we've got stainless steel linear rails on one side, then the aluminum, they're going to heat soak and change size a little bit at different rates. So adding the titanium on the back will help minimize that and reduce any bowing. Hey, Zombie, yep, we got the backers on. We got the one here on the X-axis as well. So that's where we left off at the last stream. What we're going to be doing this stream is starting off with our Z-axis belts. So with that said, let me go ahead and switch over to our browser window here so you can kind of see and follow along with what we're getting ready to work on. So we've already got our Z drive installed and we've got our Z idler installed. We're going to be doing the Z joint and the Z belts in this next step. So we're going to start off needing our Z bearing blocks. And there are two different types of these. One of them would have a spot for a magnet if we were going to be doing a haul in stop. We are not. So all four of ours are going to be the same. And we're going to start by putting M5 nuts on the back sides of these. Oh yeah, yeah. And for those that were paying attention, I do have some AC going. Apparently, for whatever reason, overnight, whatever miracle happened, and the plenum flap was starting to open, but it's still not opening fully. It's only opening halfway. So I'm getting some cooling, just not all of the cooling I should be. But at least it's like 75 and not 80 degrees up here like it was last night. So I'll take that as a win. And we should be able to, well, they're ordering a part or getting it cleared through the warranty company to order the part to replace it. Exactly, Chewy. Something's better than nothing. All right, so we've got the four of those in there. Now we're going to need our other black pieces. And once again, these are the belts. We're going to need to add the belts in. So before we actually do anything with these, we're going to need to work with our belts. So you've got both 9mm and 6mm GT2 belt. The 6mm for the AB drive, the 9mm for the Z drive. Just make sure you're grabbing your 9mm belts when you do this. And when we go to do this, it states down here in the footnote, kind of right in the middle bottom of the page, what the minimum recommended belt lengths are. And for a 300 spec, it should be 1100 millimeters. So what I actually have here is a literal meter stick. So we'll measure out a meter and then another 100, and then that's where we'll cut our belt at. And we'll do that 4 times, and we should have our Z belts. And actually what I'll do is, since I've now got one measured out, I'll get this out of the way so I don't step on it and bend it. And then I'm just going to do my standard technique of lining them up. And so what I do here, this is the belt that I just cut. This is the long strand of belt material. I'm going to take the first tooth of this belt that was previously cut to size and put it on top of the first tooth on the other belt. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure that the teeth stay aligned and work my way down. And what will happen when I get down to the bottom here is the first exposed tooth will be where I will need to cut. Okay, so I get this all the way down. And the first exposed valley we're going to cut. Okay, so now we've got two belts that are the same. And then we're just going to continue to do the same thing. Correct. The Z is 9mm and your gantry is going to be 6. And that's probably because your Z is going to be holding a lot more weight than your gantry has to deal with, because your gantry is moving it in a lateral plane, or excuse me, a horizontal plane, not a vertical plane. So, all right, so that should be 1, 2, 3, 4 belts. And I've got at least one more belt length here if I need it. So, as long as I measured well, then we just have some extra belt length here, so we have a spare belt if we need it. Let's roll that up and get that out of the way for the time being. Okay, and so what we're being asked to do now is we'll take our belt. So we're going to take one of our strands of belt, and it's telling us to line it up right at the end. It doesn't really matter which way we go, but we're going from the outer edge to the inner side. And that's important because there's these two so on our gantry, we've got these slots. And these slots are on the inner side on each side, and that's where your belt's going to go through. So that's why the end of the belt faces the outside. So you'll take the end of your belt, clean up that end, and you're going to place it right at the end of the piece and make sure it falls down into the grooves, just like that. And then we're going to take one of our black pieces, and once again, you've got the little bit of a groove in it. So you're going to line it up, M5 towards the end, M3 on the inside. Make sure that those T-nuts underneath there are lined up before you start stacking a bunch of stuff up here. Get that lined up at the end. Stick this piece over the top. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take one of our end stops with the 5mm nut facing down. And once again, 3mm on this side, 5mm on that side. So in this case, we're going to do it like this, where the 5mm bolt is towards the front of the machine. And then we're going to need an M3 by 30 and an M5 by 30. The M5 by 30 is a button head. The M3 by 30 is 40, a socket head. So again, make sure that it's in the grooves. Put your two pieces on. M5 and an M30, or an M3 and an 30 and an M5 by 30. Apparently I got a tiny bit of elephant's foot on these orange parts. Hey, 1977 All Out, how are you doing? I'm just getting these lined up. Like I said, I probably be easier if I just reamed these. Because what I'm running into is my holes are just a tad bit tight. So let me grab my reamers real fast. Five and three. I hope everybody's doing well this evening. M3's done. M5. We're dropping the stream. Where's my stream? Come back to me. And we are back. Sorry about that, folks. Not sure what that was. And we do tighten these down. Then I'm going to take this belt and I'm just going to lay it over the other side there, out of the way. And we'll do this one over here. These are a little bit more fun. We're going to grab our M3 by 30 and our M5 by 30. Yep. And once again, M5, M3. We're going to get it lined up with the little channel facing down. We're going to line up our belt, and this is a little bit harder to do because of the motor right there. You're going to line up your belt. Actually, we're going to line up our thingamajiggies first. Line up our belt with the edge right at the edge and the teeth down in the gaps. And our 5mm is towards the back, and our 3mm towards the linear rail. Okay, and for whatever reason, that's feeling like it's not aligned. There he is. Same thing for our 3mm by 30. Once again, we're going to get these pretty snug. And then we're going to take this one and lay it out of the way as well. And then we'll come over here and get the other two started. And 3 by 30 and 5 by 30. Reload those. Groove goes towards the bottom. We'll line up our T-nuts. Lay your belt in there, right up against the edge. Make sure the teeth are in the slots. Go ahead and set your belt retainer on there, kind of hold it in place, and then tighten everything down. Why is that, Pez? Are you going to be building a Voron 2.4 soon? And then we would take this one and just kind of lay it over to the side. And our last belt. And once again, here's our piece here. We want to make sure that our T-nuts are lined up, and they are. We're going to take the end of our belt, line it up right at the edge, and make sure that they dropped in. We're going to need a M330 and an M5 by 30. Groove for the belt goes to the bottom. 5 and 3 holes line up. Same thing here. Line up your 5 and 3 holes. And then I'm going to use my hand to push down. That way the belt doesn't pull away. Then we'll just start screwing down our bolts, screws, bolts. You have belts soon? Now, one thing I'll say to double check, because there's not a lot of room on the sides, just make sure that your belts aren't sticking out from the side there. And that will be our Z belts installed. It does say mind the part orientation, and it's kind of a duh. It only goes on one way. You got an M5 and an M3. They will only feed in one way. It says to repeat for all four, which we did. This block right here, if you're going to use the Hall end stop, yeah, this one would be the one that would have the magnet in it if you were doing the Hall end stop, which we are not. That's just a side note. Now we're going to bring the machine in and install the gantry into the machine. So what we're actually going to do is set this aside momentarily, bring our machine up here, and then we'll bring this back up in just another step or two. So our folks at LDO Motors have a slightly different order of operations that they want us to do. So what they have us do, we'll bring our frame in here. So this is the back. This is the front towards me. Okay. But they tell us to go ahead and skip forward to page 116, I believe, or 115, 116. And what that tells us to do is install our 4 Z joints using the M3 by 20 socket head cap screws. So we'll grab us several of those. So with our 2.5 millimeter driver, we're going to go ahead and install these. And when you install them, the round depression with the slot goes towards the bottom because that's where your M5 by 40 is going to go through to mount it, which means this kind of roundish top is what's facing up. It kind of seems a little weird that you would install it in that way, but it does make sense because that gives you the little bit of maneuverability that you'll need later on when you're trying to square up your gantry. So we're just going to get these lined up and installed here. And I'm not going to really crank down on these. I'm just going to try and get them initially snug until I get all 4 of them in there. And then I can go in and tighten them up. I just wanted to make sure that I get all 4 of them aligned properly and that they're actually attaching right. And then what we're going to do is we're basically going to bring this up and just move our stopper and set them all up at the same height is what we're going to do. And that will give us a platform that's all at the same height to set our gantry on. Hey Westery, how's it going, sis? Hope you are doing well. You haven't missed much. All we've done so far is put our Z-belts on the gantry, and now we're putting in our Z-joints. And these Z-joints, we're going to set them up at all the same height on our linear rails, and we'll use that to set our gantry on it so that we can then run our Z-belts and attach them fully. That's the one. Good, good, good. Have you figured out any of your timelines, Westery? So the AC unit has been fixed to a degree. And by a degree, I mean it's functioning partially. So had the AC guy come out here, and I don't know how or why, but it started working. But it's not. So it's still not completely opening up, but it is at least opening up more than it was before. So I am getting a little bit more airflow up here. What's everybody got working? What is everybody working on, I should say? Anybody else doing machine builds? I know Pez Liz is, but Anybody else doing machine builds or any big prints or anything else in the makerspace for that matter? Hey, Ian Douglas, how are you doing? Working with 3 people's schedule is fun. Yeah. Okay, nice, Westry. Okay, so we all have open, well, the stopper and 3 screw holes open all the way around. So we're set up there. Now what we're going to do is bring our gantry back over and actually hang it in here. So we're going to basically step back 1 page and we'll be able to set our gantry in here. Now, what we're going to do is flip our gantry over so that the linear rails on the y-axis are facing down, which would mean that all of our belts are kind of dangling there, like you see. And we're going to bring it in here at an angle. Angle it up there and set it down on those blocks. And we'll just have our Z-belts sitting up here on the deck. Now we're going to come back down here and we're going to bring our M5 by 40 socket head cap screws and install those. Now, Ian, on your Tradoon, which is based off of a 2.4 style frame, did you have to do your belts or was that part already built and then you were just assembling a few things onto it? So we're just going to take our M5 by 40 straight up through the bottom, and we're going to want to move our frame ever so slightly so it lines up. And then we're going to screw it in to those M5 nuts that are at the underside of that piece. And I'm not going to crank them down at this point. I'm just going to line them up, make sure they're flush right here on the edge, and screw them in. Rewriting your chatbot giveaway in StreamerBot and a handful of big prints going on. Okay. Giant Flexi Dragon and burnt titanium. Oh, that'll be nice. That will be nice. And then once again, like I said, I'm just going to try and line these up. We need the bottoms to go in, or the screws to go up from the bottom up. And I'm noticing that there's a bit of a gap here. So what I'm going to do, because I had tightened these previously, is I'm just going to undo these screws, top and bottom, not all the way, but just some, so they're loose and can be moved. These should have been loose to begin with, but I had tightened them up before I started flipping the gantry and everything. And this basically should allow this back cross member to float as I pull the 4 blocks into alignment on their rails. And 5x40, the ones you lost. Oh no, no. Okay, the XYs were done. So this was done. You're just laying the gantry in there and looping up the belts. So now I'm able to pull this side over and get it lined up on the other block. And that should self-center this bar here. And if I need to, once I get these 4 secured down, I can go back and kind of make sure that they're lined up. But these bolts should go in with no issue. They should just align up. Gotcha. The bag label was facing down, so obviously they didn't exist. Yep. Nice. Yeah, that's definitely a lot easier assembly there, Ian. Okay, so we have those done. It says restore the remaining joints. Well, we already have our joints installed. And now it says loosen the top belt clamps. These are the ones that we put in up here. These would be our 3mm screwdriver, 3mm driver. And based on where I have my belt at, let me drop this down one more on each corner. Like one more. Oh, this would have to be 2 because we're right above the. And the reason I'm dropping it down is just so I should be able to get in here and loosen these up without scratching the side of my frame with my metal knurled wrench. So we're just going to loosen these up so we've got the space. You don't want to completely undo them, but you want the black pieces there to be able to move up and down. Yeah, it takes a lot longer to get the acrylic sides in. Yep. Hear you there. All right. So yeah, so you're going to see me take these off and then reattach them because the once again the bolt holes I actually like threaded through them instead of them being through holes on the black parts, and they really need to be the through hole sizing, so I just need to ream them out to 5mm. You grab that. These I should be able to do by hand. It feels like it's just the tiniest bit of, yeah, see how that now goes up and down? Just a tiny bit of inside edge elephant foot on the side that was against the print bed. Yeah, it just gives us a little bit of wiggle room up and down. Well, that one should be good. So that we'll be able to feed our belts in there. And then this is where you go, I think I messed something up. And I'll show you what I mean in half a second. Oh wow, yeah, I saw you posted something about a women in 3D printing event, Pez Liz. That's awesome. The French needs improvement. Probably better my French. I haven't done French really since high school, and that's been quite a while. And so the other thing that I was noticing was my belts, are going to be, looping around on this side. Yet I put my idlers on the back instead of the sides here. So I need to remove my 4 idlers and move them to the appropriate locations and get them reinstalled. So instead of installing these on the back and front rails, they needed to be on the side rails. So I had just installed them in the wrong location. Well, I mean, if only you were going to Earth, I know somebody that would take the Voron off your hands for you. Just saying. Now the question is can I get these to pop out? Which the answer may be no. I may just have to put new ones in and live with these being here. Or I have a way I know I can get them out, but I'm not sure if I want to do it. You glad you're not the only one that what? Uh, Put their idlers in the wrong place and then had to figure out how to adjust them? Hey, Dutch dude, how's it going, my friend? Yeah, they're rolling T-nuts. Um, well, I didn't want to buy it at Remurf because I had no way of getting it home. But my thing is if I can get it and bring it with me rather than needing to ship it, then all right. So this is going to be my cringe moment. What I need to do is we're going to verify our square. Change your new filament. Well, good. Seriously. Yes, the enclosed Merc is performing really well. In fact, it's printing right now parts for the baby belt. Um, it is printing parts for the baby belt. Come on now, work with me. Person, work with me. Okay, so 2 down. The dragon has all the boxes behind him. All the boxes for what? Okay, Western One. Thanks for the lurk. Thanks for the lurk, Ian. All right, so 2 fixed. Now I need to turn around and do the other 2. And then recheck the top for square. See is how I've basically taken the frame down to do this. And zombies lurking. Okay, shopping time. I do that from the house. It's called Amazon. Hell, I did some of that right before the stream. All I'm saying is Amazon. To me, I don't have to go anywhere. Okay. Now we just need to get these other two corners put in. So Dutch, how have you been? How is the Ender 5 Plus enclosed build going? Yeah, and honestly, Ian, I'd asked Mrs. Dragon to pick up that 2.4 and bring it home to me, but she'd probably kill me before she brought it home to me. But I guess you never know. But she actually flew out, so she's not going to be driving home. Otherwise, if she drove out, then yeah, I'd have her definitely pick it up. I guess next time she goes out, I'll tell her just to drive. Because it is assembled, correct? It's not like broken down. I guess he's actually lurking, so bad time to try ask, huh? Oh yeah, I don't do food. Well, I do like protein water, but I won't even do like protein shakes or anything like that because it's so much more expensive on Amazon. I'll just go to the store and get it. Yeah, she's out there. Her mom just had surgery on Tuesday. The surgery went well, but unless they, unless she does really well healing and everything, it's a 6 week time where she can't drive. So I bought her a printer. Yeah, she doesn't want another printer, dude. She wants me to get rid of the printers I have in the house now, um, which we all know how far that's going to go. Okay. So now that we've corrected the issue that I myself created, we'll go ahead. All of our um, whatchamacallit, bearing blocks are down at the bottom. So, you know, I might want to actually not crank these down all the way right yet, so they'll actually have the ability to, I don't know, move. There you go. They can move now. Okay, so these are all loosened down. It says just barely get the threads going on them. Yeah, I've tried doing it with just like one thread and then they keep falling out. So I basically thread them through the M3 nut, which gets, I think, 2 or 3 threads into them. You should still have plenty of travel. So everything's loose. And so now we're ready to start running our belt. And so now the routing is, where's one of my belts? We're going to come down and then we're going to go around our pulley at on the motor gear at the bottom. So we go down through the motor gearing And I'm just going to kind of pull it through at the motor side. And then route it back up on the other side of the pulley. Come on. Okay. We're going to make this easier on myself. And we're just going to lay this down on the table. I think I might have done this on the other one too. Make sure you don't squish your belts. So we're going to loop it around that pulley. And then we're going to want to take the other end, make sure we're staying within the printed part, and just scoot it right back up and through the other side. Okay. And while I'm here, I'm going to do that same thing for all of our pulleys. So go around at the top of the pulley, pull it through, and then at the bottom of the pulley and push it through. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing at the bottom, or at the bottom, yeah. We'll say at our bottom pulleys. Push it through at the bottom, and then go around the other side of the pulley and route it back up. And last one. Sorry about that. All right, and I'm going to set it back up. So we've got all four around our bottom pulleys. We want to make sure that they are lined up on those pulleys. Okay. And then we're going to come up and we're going to go through that hole that we had. Oops. We're going to go through this hole here that we have. So we're looped through the pulley, through there. We're going to come through the pulley at the top. And then we're going to come from the inside and go out. So that's where we needed our gap so that we could slide our belt through there. Give ourselves a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And I'm not going to tighten anything down yet. I'm just getting my belts initially routed because I really want to make sure that they're lined up on all of the pulleys and all of the belt paths themselves are good before I start yanking on these. because I don't want to damage a pulley or anything. Well, and every once in a while, you'll have one of these pop back out, and that's what I hate. Okay. But it was free, honey. Yeah, she knows it's not free. Okay. Once again, these belts just go right up through those channels. I'll go around these pulleys, and they'll come from the inside out underneath our belt clips. I'm just going to try and work on getting these initially lined up, hand tight. Nothing is crunched down yet. Crunched down. Nothing is tightened down yet. Once again, we go down around the pulley. We come up through the printed part around the top pulley or the angry idler, and then down and towards the outside. It says pull tight and secure the belt clamp. Now that I've got all four started, I will start doing that. I'm just going to pull as tight as I can by hand without ripping everything out. I want to make sure that in each segment it feels taut, because there's times like going around the bottom of the pulley that you won't have the teeth lined up, and you'll actually have a section, you think it's tight, but you have like a whole section that's loose because of it. So you want to make sure that that belt is also nice and straight when you start clamping this down. Okay. In here, we feel good and tight. Flip it around here. We'll do the other side. But it's red? Okay. I mean, I could get over it if it's red. It's good that that's still moving very nicely. All right, coffee break. Okay, fold the excess belt over and use a small zip tie to secure the end. All right, so we're going to zip tie it to the side here because this belt won't go all the way up. And their zip ties were in which box? Not the motion box. The motion box has pretty much the rest of the parts for the stealth runner, fasteners, tools, and miscellaneous. Zip ties are miscellaneous, right? And we may actually have some extra belt here that we will cut off, but grab a couple of these out. And so the operation here is really, we're just going to fold it back to itself, up a little bit, and then back down. So we're just going to kind of do like this number here and zip tie it right behind this other belt. Let me get a zip tie started. Once again, just bring it over, give yourself some headroom, pull it back on itself. And that's kind of where you want it. And we will just trim this other little piece off right here. Be done. We'll flip over here and do the other two. Hey, John Strand, how you doing? How are you doing today, my friend? Well, the build's going well. We've got our Z belts actually installed, as you can see. We did have one little, well, we're zip tying them up right now. We did have one little faux pas that I had to fix. I had my idlers on the front and back versus the sides. So they were installed on these rails instead of these rails. So I had to fix those real fast. Simple fix. We got our Z-belts run, and obviously our gantries hung. We're just going to fold over our excess belt here. And it didn't tell me to trim the excess belt yet, but we will probably relatively soon, whether it tells us to or not. I've got to see if I can fix these. I cut a screw with them and I put a divot in them. Install remaining Z-belts. Wow, we've already done all 4. Remove the zip ties. We didn't use the big zip ties. Squaring the gantry. Move the gantry all the way back until it hits the A and B drive on both sides, which I believe we just did. Well, let me remove the stops because we really don't need the front and back stops on these anymore. There we go. Slide this all the way back until it hits. Now, this side is right up against it. This side, I've got a bit of a probably 1.5 to 2 millimeters of distance. So you may need to adjust the distance between the A and B drive to square the gantry. So we've loosened our bolts. Okay. Well, what I need to do here loosen this, loosen this. Definitely racked. Oh yeah, another day above ground is always a good day, isn't it? So I'm going to loosen all of these up again. Not taking them out, I'm just going to loosen them up so hopefully they can kind of self-align, self-center a little bit. Now we've got our belts on. put it in the back, and I'm pushing it back so it's touching everywhere. I'm just going to tighten all of these up. Still off. That's what I need to do is just, I don't know, do the QR code and follow the guide as far as or do what I just did, which fixed it. So I'll tighten these back up again. And tightening up the Z joints with the X gantry all the way back. I'll move it forward, make sure both sides are at the end stops, which they are. I'll go ahead and tighten up the front Z joints. There we go. Gantry is squared. Next up will be our A and B belts. Woohoo! These will be our 6mm belts. There are individual belt paths. They will be fun and glorious to do. It shows the belt path and what it is. Once again, just like before, we want to make sure that our front idlers are loosened all the way. So I'll even go and make sure that there's slack on the screws. So there's no chance, these are fully moving, right? Fully moving. There we go. So they fully move. And we're going to need to route our belts. It's going to talk about the carriage. We're not going to worry about the carriage because we're going to use the Voron tap to route our belts. So there's two ways that you could do it. You can take your 6mm belt, find the midpoint, cut it, and call it good. Or what I normally do is I will route the belt, get it to a little bit more than it needs, cut it, and then make the other side the exact same length like we've done in the past. And to me, one, that'll leave you a little bit of belt that you could potentially use on another project down the road. But you also have the same number of teeth, which will make tensioning the belt a lot easier. So I've got a couple of the Big Tree Tech pie boards. I have not installed them on anything yet. So what I've done is I just went through and pulled out a goodly chunk of belt here so I can start working on doing some belt routing. Because what I'll do is I'll route one belt loosely, and then I'll cut that and use it to size the other one. So this particular one, well, it doesn't matter since I will put it in and then take it back out. So we're going to come in from the right and go around because that's the English sometimes, I swear. That is the side that we're going to basically start from here. So I'm going to go around our front piece here. And it might be worth my time to put some bump stops in here just to keep it from pulling too much one way or the other. Um, there we go. Yeah, so we're going to come around here and then we're going to go around this front idler. So it's kind of a pain in the butt to get them around these front idlers. And I do mean a pain in the butt. So I'm just uh, kind of rotating my belt a little bit to kind of give it the desire to want to turn as it goes in there. There we go. Get it through that belt. Going to go right through the gap between the X rail or the X gantry and the Y. And it's going to go through the slot back here. And on this side, we went around the front pulley, around the idler. We're coming around the back. And this one will go around this motor pulley. And we're at the top. So one of the easiest ways would be to kind of fish it through. And then once again, try and get a little bit of a curve to it. Use your finger through the gap here to guide it between the pulley and this other roller here. Let me turn around here so you can possibly see what I'm trying to do. Okay, so we want to go around this pulley, or yeah, this idler, around the pulley, and then back through to this idler. So you're trying to make it go completely around the pulley, and then line it up on the two top idlers so that it continues to work its way around. And then I'll come straight over to this top idler and around. We're going to come around this idler, push it forward. Pull some slack. It's going to go between the X gantry joint and the rail again. We're just going to pull a little bit of slack. And on this left side, it's going to come around to smooth bearing. So it's kind of got to give it another loop again. There we go. And bring it around. Come on, you can do it. And so now that I've got that belt run, right, we've got the one belt path run. I'm just going to kind of crisscross them a little bit and give myself a little bit of gap on either side of where my bearing block would be. And then we'll cut the belt. And then we'll use this, we'll pull this back out, and we'll use this to make our other belt. And then that way they'll be both the same size. And then we'll go through and we'll route them again. So it's kind of sucks that you have to do it a couple times, but at the same time, it really works out well because your belts are going to be the same exact length, and then tensioning them becomes a lot easier. So the same thing, the one that's previously cut, we start off with that tooth higher than the other one, and then we're just going to slowly pull through it to keep them aligned, right? Keep the teeth aligned and working their way through together. And then the first opening after the end is going to be where we cut it. So I will go by and just re-verify this because it's hard to work with the thing coiled so much like that. And if I need to, I can refine this because I did make plenty of length on the teeth or on the belt when I was doing my initial run. So nope, these are both perfect. So once again, you're going to have plenty of extra belt. We can probably get at least one, if not, actually, we'll get at least one belt length out of this. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of extra belt. So it's almost like they anticipate you to make a mistake, and they want to make sure that you've got plenty of belt to be able to recover. Hey, Pete, how are you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. So we're going to put this up there with the other ones. And we get to go through and kind of run our belts for the second time. I'm going to look and see if I've got any writing on it, so I can make sure that the writing will at least be, I don't know, going in the same direction. This way we're going through the tooth pulley at the top. Then we're going to have to work our way around our first idler here. I'm just going to use my whatchamacallit to kind of guide it around the idler, so I can get a couple of teeth out and pull it through. So around the first idler, we're going to go between the X gantry and the Y rail. We're going to go once again through the back motor mount and the Y rail gap. We're going to have to go around the top pulley and around the motor pulley. We're going to use our pinky here to kind of guide it around the other side of the motor pulley and between it and the idler on the other side. Just like that. And just be able to make sure our alignment's good on those pulleys. Bring it around this side. There we go. Whatever reason, this last pulley or this last idler over here is always kind of a pain in the butt, and it tries to drop out of the alignment because it's supposed to line up with the edge of the extrusion, and it likes to drop down more in the gap of the extrusion, which is not where it should be. And it causes funkiness and misalignment. So you need to kind of fight against that. Okay, and that's one belt that's routed. What I'm going to do is go ahead and capture one side on the tap so that it'll become a little bit easier for us to do the rest of them, since we'll have that done. So all I'm going to do is loosen the left belt clamp, and our belt is going to come around the back and then loop around between this clamp. So hopefully we can get it there. If not, I'll just let's take this completely off, and then we'll route our belt through, flip it over, and stick this back on loosely. All I'm trying to do is keep one side from moving while I go through to run the other side. So what's up? Just lightly putting in one of these screws, just like I said, just I'm trying to use it as just a stopper to kind of hold it in place while I go to route the other belt. And the other belt's once again going to start on the other side here. I guess I probably could have got this started on the edge before I did that, but hindsight's always 20/20. Hey, Stephen Poole, how are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. As Liz is still hanging out here. Screw this down a little bit, snug it a little bit, and try and get alignment in the number of teeth that I have exposed on each side, or on each top and bottom. Go ahead and cinch this down the rest of the way. And now having the same exposure would enable me to then count teeth on the other side when I go to tighten it up. So I know that I'm lined up nicely and I had the same tension on each belt. Once again, I'm just going to get this started just as a placeholder while I'm trying to tighten the or route the belt. Be a little bit easier. And I'm even going to stopper in here, which ought to make pulling everything tight a little bit easier. So going around this side, we're going to start around our tooth pulley because we're going on the bottom side. We're going to go around from the inside to the outside of our front idler here. So I'm just going to guide it around the idler as best as I can. Guide it around. Okay. Going to pass by the gap here. Round the bottom idler over on this side. Might be easier if I walk around here. There we go. Around the front idler, down the gap, around the back idler. Now we're going to go through the pulley on this left side. So be mindful. Same type of thing. You need to probably use your finger to help it around that gap. And I realized I went around the plastic here, so I'm going to have to undo this side. And fix this. Obviously is easier said than done. Come on. There we go. We're going to be trying to go. I can't get to wrap around a different way now. I'll tell you all how much fun this is. Belting and wiring are just about as much fun as the other, There we go. There we go. We were good there. We're around the pulley here. These will come around here, go through at the bottom. Go through at the bottom. And immediately kind of go back through this end. Pull this flat. Okay. I'm a little bit off on trajectory there. This is another case where this belt kind of fell down some, and it's in the groove of the extrusion where it should not be, but trying to get work its way out. That one fell down, the other one went up and is not aligned properly. Split down, so that part is good now. I know. I keep building them. I've got nobody to complain to but myself, apparently, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to look because I'm a few teeth off distance wise between these two. So I'm just going to feel around and see if there's anything that's kind of out of place. Anything that's not really seated in the idler. Oh, I think that did it. We're all lined back up again. So, yep. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this loose and I'm going to pull them through on this other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that belt clamp now. We'll go ahead and remove this from the X carriage. Seriously? And then we're going to feed our belts through. Make sure we get the bottom on the bottom and the top on the top. Going to get them lined up. I need to make sure, once again, that my belts are the same length. Then we'll go ahead and we'll get the belt clamp back on. When I'm pulling these tight, I want to make sure that the two ends are the same length. When I pull them tight, I'm pulling them tight at the same length. May have lost a tooth there, but okay. So now we'll go ahead and mount our carriage on our linear rail. There's the first two screws. The other two screws we'll have to grab from the box. There'll be the two longer screws, I believe. No, not the two long screws. The two long screws, two short screws. It's the long screws. Could be the long screws, I think. Nope, it's going to be the short screws. And the fun part is you get to fight the magnet. Really not the fun part. It's more of a pain in the butt, but there is the magnet that is what makes the tap. Um, and so that's what we're going to, dang it. trying to come in this at an angle, and then you can straighten it up once you get it in the screw hole. Okay, so our tap's working. Our axis is working. We'll hold off on cutting those just for a short bit. We will have two M2 screws. This would be to put the X end stop on the actual CNC tap if you weren't going to use the pod, like if you're going to do a CAN bus. And then the other two longer screws are one of the mounts for actually mounting your tool head. So we will put those back in there and put them back in the box for the time being so that we don't lose those. And we also have the sensor wire in here for the tap sensor that we will use. Okay, so little recap here. We've got the Z belts installed. We've got our A and D belt installed. And we've got our gantry de-racked. Now we've got a ton of excess belt here. Let's see what it tells us to do with it. If it tells us to go ahead and cut it off. This would be the X carriage. We're not doing the X carriage, or at least not that X carriage. And this is what we were looking at. So let me turn this sideways here. So you're looking at the back. You want to make sure that your belt goes around the bearing, around the pulley, around the other bearing, and doesn't go over this plastic piece. I actually had it going over the plastic piece. That's why I had to redo it when I was standing from the back. Okay, same thing over here. Around the pulley, around the idler, around the motor pulley, around the idler, not going over that plastic piece. You also want to make sure and look through here and make sure that your belts are lining up on your pulleys and they're not like way offline. Make sure that everything's lining up on your pulleys or your idlers, and nothing is rubbing. We appear to be good. I'm going to bring this, take the stops out. I'm going to bring it all the way to the back and make sure that we are an ever so slight gap here. So that might just be, we can fix that tiny bit of yeah, that would just be belt tensioning. We can solve that when we tension our belts. Okay. So next up talks about, of course, the X carriage, which would include the inductive probe. We're not using that. Next up would be the afterburner. We are not going to do the afterburner. We're going to do a stealth burner, and I have yet to print those parts, so I will get those parts printed between now and Tuesday, because I think what we're going to focus on Saturday is we're going to skip the tool head and go into the electronics. So Saturday we'll be working on the underside and doing the electronics. Unless you guys think we can go ahead and start today, I will leave that up to you guys. I think the first part of the electronics is really just getting everything mounted and getting everything mounted, getting everything ready to start being installed. Yeah, let's keep going through that. Let's start on the electronics piece because we're not going to get into the actual wiring. I want to do that on Saturday when I have a clear, fresh mind and we can just go, right? Hey, Free Heathen, how you doing? How's it going? Premiering a new YouTube video. Okay, I'm going to take this now and I'm going to set it off onto the side. Once again, we've left our belts sort of long. We'll go through and we'll cut all those later. Let's go back over here to our browser window. And actually, let me catch up on chat because I wasn't paying attention with chat while I was fighting with belts. So let me just see. Stephen Poole, I saw him come in and he was lurking. Pete came in. Hey, Pete. John Strand's in. How are you doing, sir? Tuning up and working on printers. Been neglecting them since I got the P1P, the KP3S Pro S1 is all pop pink now. Oh, nice. Nice. And then Free Heathen popped in. How you doing, Free Heathen? Well, you can use glow-in-the-dark filament to do a baby belt or a rook because they're all PLA. What else we got? Yep, and I'm the one that keeps building these things. And like I said, the belt's kind of a pain in the butt on the 2.4. Everything else is fairly easy, but the belts on the 2.4 and actually do a little bit less the Trident are just a pain in the butt trying to get them around the idlers and get everything to line up right. Okay, so we're gonna keep going a little bit and just basically get electronics prepped. So the Raspberry Pi stuff, let me grab all this stuff. We don't need our rail jigs. So that goes there. We don't need our pulley jig, which I keep throwing back in here anymore because all of our pulleys are done. These will come in later. And from a Raspberry Pi perspective, I'm using LDO's beefier Raspberry Pi holder because normally there's just one in the center and it kind of flops around. This one actually uses two of the den clips. So, and let's see, we're going to use M2x10 self-tapping, which are these tiny little things. Yeah, I had a print going on the ender belt downstairs, and I went down to check and I realized it was printing in air and I was like, oofta. So it's got a jam in it, and of course it's a PTFE lined hot end. So now it's like flipped up on its side. I'm cutting DIN rails. I'm going to move all the electronics over to the DIN rails underneath it. And because the point is I'm going to have to take the hot end apart or just do the needy and take the hot end off completely and put the Revo on it so I can start using my belt nozzle. I do have the upgrade on order from Additiva. It is, I do have shipping information, but it's going to take a little while. So the Trident, the gantry is fixed and the bed moves up and down on 3 lead screws. On the 2.4, the bed is fixed and the gantry flies up and down on 4 Z belts. So, but the gantry itself is pretty much the same. The difference is one is fixed to the frame and the other is a floating gantry. But the actual literal A and B motors and gantry are pretty much identical. Oh, I'm like, why is that not going in? It's because it's a completely different hole size. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the size is the same. There's a couple of slight differences to the frames, but you know, the actual outer frames are the same. It's just the difference in the rails you use for the bed mounts and stuff like that. Um, do I have a belt machine going and some spare PLA? My belt machine is down right now. I got a hot end clog up in the cold side. So I'm fighting with that. And my fight's going to be simple. I'm going to yank it off and put the Revo on it so I can run the belt nozzle, excuse me, the nipple nozzle for my belt printer. And then once the Additiva gets here, I will switch over to, so it wants me to mount the pie. Which pie was I going to use on this? We'll come back and we'll mount the pie in a little bit because I need to figure out which pie I'm going to put on it. I don't know if I'm going to swap around. We don't do this one. So we jump way forward. Let me see something real fast and check the thing over here. The wiring differs from the manual. Please look at their wiring. The LDO wiring diagram. The kit does not use a 5-volt PSU or Wagos except for Rev C. The 2 Wago connectors are used only for the heated bed. So that's something to know. We just used the Raspberry Pi beefy, or excuse me, the LDO beefy Raspberry Pi mount. We're not going to actually mount the Pi just yet because I need to figure out if I'm going to use the Pi 4 down there or swap a Raspberry Pi out of something else. I may take the Pi out of the V0 and put in one of the banana pies or a standard Raspberry Pi Zero that I just found. So we'll see. I haven't decided. For whatever reason, I keep like, oh, wait. No, I've got 2 Raspberry Pis down here. So which one was which? So this is the one that was actually on my Ender 3 Max, which has gotten uh, boxed up because it's going to go somewhere. So we will pop the case off, undo the fan, pull the Raspberry Pi out, put that back there. So boom, we got a Raspberry Pi. And hey, it's got Clipper on it, so I just need to run update and a couple of other things. Scroll back up here. And 2x10 self tappers, okay. And sorry. Okay. Yep. Yes, those will stay in there. Too much scrolling back and forth. Goes on over this way. So now that mentally I'm caught back up, let me see. Your brain's not working today, Chewy? Oh, join the club. Join the club. Oh, I can spare PLA. Trust me, I've got plenty of PLA, my dude. You want some of the minis done on a belt? Okay. I can do that. I have some of your minis. I don't know. Yeah, I have some of your minis. What I'll do is, as soon as I get the belt printer back up, which, like I said, I was going to plan on moving the electronics anyhow, so now is a good time since I was going to have to get into the control board and basically pull the wiring for the stock hot end to run the wiring for the Revo CR. And then I'll have to do it again later when I actually get the Additiva kit, which if the shipping goes the same way, it's going to take like 2 to 3 weeks to get here. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put the Revo CR on it so I can use the belt printer nozzle. And the nice thing is I'll just be able to swap that belt printer nozzle into the ByQ H2 VS or SV Revo hot end. Okay, so Raspberry Pi's built, put together. We're not going to use the 5-volt PSU. We do need to put that on the power supply, which is here. So power supply, first thing I'm going to do is just kind of take a look at, make sure there's no damage to it. This is UKCA, this is LRS 224. It's currently set for 230. We need to change that, so we'll change that over to 110 or 115. And then we're going to flip it over, use our two, use our two power supply mounts. And these will be the M4x6 button head cap screws. Thought we're going to be over there, but they're not. M4x6, M4x6. Where's the M4x6? M4x6, right? Yep. But yeah, I can definitely give that a try for Heathen. Was that Discode comment to me, Free Heathen, or someone else? So you're trying to sell your Trident stuff to build a 2.4 Chewy? Okay, so we got the power supply done. Now it tells us to go ahead and do the den for our octopus board. And outside. Yeah, having this stuff done will definitely make it a little bit quicker when we get started on Saturday. Um, yeah, Heathen, like I said, if that discount code for things comment was to me, then yeah, just hit me up on Discord. Okay, we're going to need our octopus board. And I think I already took the rubber ducky out of here. Otherwise, I'm going to feel very sad that I got gypped out of a rubber ducky. Okay, so yet another packet full of jumpers. Seriously? All right, John Strand, have fun going to work. Be safe. All right, cool. Thanks for Heathen. We got a 350 Trident frame, so you're going to just try and focus on the 2.4. Okay, so you're trying to sell your Trident, or you're trying to just, you're going to put your Trident to the side and focus on building the 2.4 first? Because I'm assuming you got the frame kit from Tensor, if I remember right. We're going to use M3x6 screws. Those are the M3x6 captive screws. M3x6s. Those are flatheads. 3x6 button heads. And I love that it doesn't show which side it goes on. However, on this side goes there, so this will be on one side and that'll be on the other. And if you decide to swap it, then swap it you may. Spelling the Trident 300 parts because not 300 Trident. Okay, got you. So you got a 350 frame, but you got 300 size parts. Gotcha. Well, you know, it might just be easier to get a 300 size frame and then sell the 350 frame. Hey, Royal Nomi, how are you doing? Welcome on in. We decided that we were going to at least press forward a little bit longer because we got the Z belts done up and the A and B belts done up fairly quickly. So I figured we got a little bit of time. We'll go through the portion of the electronics where we get all of our stuff mounted, and then we'll stop and just chit chat because I want to start doing wiring on Saturday. Because I think that'll be a better time for everybody, and I will be refreshed and thinking more clearly on Saturday. So, now, interestingly enough, let me see. I gotta flip back over here to the other one. Page 184. We do use a different mount for their power inlet for the power supply. So we'll do that. We'll need to find that power inlet. Sorry for popping off the screen again. Let's see, will it be in the cable kit or will it be in the, sadly not in the cable kit. Oh, nice. So they don't provide the Pi, so they don't provide the Raspberry Pi, but they provide a heatsink for the Pi. They do provide the whatchamacallit, the Keystone adapter. They provide a couple of Wagos for the bed mount. And they also provide a 32 gig SanDisk card. So, hey, that's going to be good. That's going to add to my thing because that one's already got a card in it. We're going to need that and that. This is the display. I'll leave this stuff in there for now. I was looking for the power supply inlet or the AC inlet. So this is a different piece, and I think it's going to be going in a different spot. So hopefully I've got all the printed parts that I'm going to need. And it's got fuses here, so that probably means I need to crack this open and put fuses in it. So whenever you get a power, if you ever get a power socket, never, ever, ever assume that it has a fuse in it. because some of my filtered power inlets don't have a fuse in it. So this does have a fuse, which tells me that these are just extra fuses. That I will keep out for later. But the nice thing is based on the shape, it's keyed one way. It just press fits in. That'll be that keystone jack. And looking at the way this almost looks like this is going to go as a middle plate in the back. So we got that put together, which means this will be interesting as far as getting the other piece here. So that's where I'm saying I may have to reprint this piece, or not reprint, but print another one of these that's a standard one without the socket inlet. Ah, cooking dinner. What's for dinner, Royal Nomi? You thought today was Friday? Yeah, I kind of wish today was Friday, but no, it's not. It's Thursday. Yeah. I would really sit there and do kind of like a little inventory and go, okay, here's what I have, here's what I don't have for each of them, and figure out which one would be the closest and easiest to get the parts to finish the build out. Okay, I'll put this back over here. We're going to use some more of our M4x6s to mount this. Yeah, otherwise you can continue to just keep going down the rabbit hole. And I'm not sure how people normally mount these, but I will tell you how I mount these. So this is the side that you're pushing against. I always put the side you're pushing against the low voltage input side, and the other side on the load side. Don't know why. It might be better to do it the other way, but that's how I normally do it. So we've got our SSR, Raspberry Pi, which is already nicely enough preloaded with Clipper because I just pulled it off of another printer that I put in a box. So all I have to do is basically redo the printer config and a few other things, but I will rebuild this on stream just to go through that process with everybody. We've got our power supply out and mounted, and we've got our Big Tree Tech Octopus board out and mounted. We've got our power inlet mounted up. Let's see, what else do we need? It's going to talk about the Z in stop. I can put this together, but I'm not going to use it. And the reason I say that is because with Voron, or excuse me, with the tap, so Voron tap or the CNC tap, you do not use the end stop. So this is your Z end stop that is talking about putting together here. I think I've printed all the parts, but you know, I have never, all of my 2.4 and my Trident are running taps. So I've never actually had to build this. So let's go ahead and actually build it, because why not? I've got the parts. Now, whether or not I actually install it and use it is completely different. They also provide all the parts for Clicky Probe, but I'm not going to do Clicky Probe either. Because once again, you know, Clicky Probe would be a replacement for your I swear sometimes clicky probe would be the replacement for your inductive probe sensor. So if you're going to do the inductive probe, then you wouldn't use clicky. So for the ZN stop, page 186, it says to use the ZN stop printed part, which we did, and the PCB, which will be somewhere in there. See the wiring guide for your specific printer for details. And like I said, we can go through and put this together. It doesn't use this version, which is the switch. It will use the version with the PCB here. So this would be the alternate in stop. And so we have our printed in stop piece. I think in the motion kit would be the deflanged 20-tooth pulley. And we'll have the required nozzle probe shaft. There's those pieces. And I'm assuming that the little PCB would be in the electronics section somewhere. I don't remember seeing it in box 1 of 2, so maybe it's in 2 of 2. VHB, see, toolhead PCB, XY in stop PCB, ZN stop PCB. So it would be in here. This is the nice thing about this kit, is it comes with a plethora of different boards. So this is going to be the X and Y in stop board that we'll put together in a little bit. These are the 2 boards for the tool head. Once again, this would not be the CAN bus tool head. So, but those would be those 2 boards. This is a breakout board that goes underneath the deck. So your what is this? Yeah, so the 14-pin connector that comes from the tool head board is going to route through your cable chains and hit this board up underneath the printer. And then from here, you'll have the individual cables that'll go from this breakout board to the controller. This is the ZN stop board we were looking for. I'm going to leave this one out because I believe that does get used. This is a little, it's a board. I believe this one gets used to take the 2 60-20 fans that go on the side skirt and combine them. So I believe they'll go one on each side, and then the middle will go out and go to the controller board. There's another fan one. I believe that's another one. I have no idea. Is this 5-volt ground? I wonder if this is part of Clippy. I don't know. We'll figure that out in a minute. Oh wait, that might be the Octopus power adapter, so that we'll use the Octopus to power the Raspberry Pi. And like I said, there's the clicky kit. So this is all the parts and pieces you would need to do clicky. I have never ever done clicky. Bin rail pieces. They include the parts to print a Steppy, which is their little drive mascot. And then here's all the terminal blocks and stuff that we'll use. So yeah, we're going to be getting into quite a bunch of stuff here. Um, all of our TMC 2209 drivers are in here. So I think I got the boards that I will need for the next couple of pieces, and we'll just go ahead and get our little ZN stop put together, just because, well, like I said, I've never actually put one together. We won't need it because I'm going to use tap, but why not? So our 20-tooth pulley, there's no, we don't put any um, lock nuts in this because the rod's actually going to be floating and it's going to be used to push down on our piece. So I'm pretty sure we don't put any set screws. Yeah, remove the flange and set screws. Push it all the way down in. Okay, I guess we can use a set screw against the flat there to keep it from falling out, but I don't think we're going to have an issue. And this basically just gets press fitted down in this part. You just kind of line it up and then you'd press fit it. And it's going to be a tight fit. I'm not sure if that's a little bit of elephant's foot on my part, or we may just be not doing this because with the way this is, I'm probably going to have to use a darn vise to get this pushed in there. That is going to be a nice and tight fit. Yep, that's going to require some power of persuasion, which I don't have up here. Yeah, I'll have to use a rubber mallet or something on that later. So we actually won't put that together right now. What's up next? Mounting it, which we're not going to mount it because we're not going to use it either. The XY in stop, there's a version where you actually use just plain in stops and wire them up. And then there's this version where you would actually use the XY pod, and provided I printed that part out, which I'm not sure if I did. Not there, not there. Oh, that would be a da, 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 da. Panels, door panels, skirt stuff. Wow, this is going to be a bust because it doesn't look like I printed that out either. Okay, so it looks like between now and Saturday, I need to print a couple of things because I don't have the piece for this, and we will be using this one. So we will have to print the part and circle back on this one. And then what else? We will install that on the printer. And then this part is where things start to go a little bit south. And we're going to have to really start looking at the LDO motor stuff because That says skip this because they don't use the Wago connectors. So we don't need to do that. And then it starts working on doing this, which like yeah, I mean, I think I printed this part, but it'll have the openings, but it won't have the, it won't need these openings. So I think it's part on the other corner. So now looking at this, I kind of feel like I am one shy of a print for parts anyhow. So yeah, I need to print a couple of parts. Yeah, I need to print a couple more parts. So sorry, folks, I've been kind of head down here. Grilled chicken chopped up with penne pasta and broccoli with a homemade bacon cheese Alfredo sauce. Oh my goodness. That sounds lovely. Hey, KB3D Chris, how are you doing, my friend? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. So we did the XY here. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Let me make a note real fast though before I start clearing out too much. Need to kind of make notes of what all I need to print. So I need the print the XY in-stop pod. Print skirts. Because yeah, I should have 3 of these, right? Because there's 2 motors, and then there should be 2 on the other side, and one of them would have had the electrical outlets, and I didn't print that because we use the different electrical outlet panel for the LDO motors, which means I'm missing 2 of these, so I'm going to have to print 2 of these. I'm going to have to print the XY in-stop pod. We've got the parts to do clicky and the parts to do the Z in-stop, but we don't need either one of those because we're using Voron tap. So we don't technically need either one of those. But the good news is we can get that taken care of. That stuff's no problem. We're not going to need this part. We don't need this part because this would be for the 5-volt. Let me come up here. Yeah. Actually, let me do. Oh, yeah. So we don't need this piece because this would be for our Wagos. We're not using the Wagos. They use a different line splice method, we'll say. And we don't need this DIN clip because this one is for the RS255, which is the 5-volt power supply. We don't need that because there's an adapter that we're going to use on the Octopus board that will pipe 5 volts out and will come in on the GPIO pins, I think. So these are extra. We won't need these. So Chris, how you been? Yeah, goodness knows I need to go eat something. Okay, Royal Numi, go grab dinner. Um, yeah, especially since I think that's kind of where we're at. We've got our SSR laid out. We've got our Raspberry Pi. This was one that we had previously used, so it does already have a card in it, though they provided a 32 gig card and a heatsink for Raspberry Pi, even though they don't provide the Raspberry Pi, but that's okay. So we've got a Raspberry Pi. This is a 3B plus. We've got our LRS 224. It's already on its mount. It's ready to go. We've got our Octopus mounted up, ready to be clipped on. And we'll just have to start working on our electronics. And we're not going to do any of the electronics, wiring, mounting this stuff up until tomorrow. Or I'm sorry, not tomorrow, Saturday. And we went ahead and installed our IEC 13 socket and its mount. And there we have a keystone jack on that'll go on one of those. And let's just go ahead and get our stuff cleaned up here. Oh, 2x10 self-tapping goes there. So it sounds like I need to print a few things. What I do want to do before we go, though, is get the printer back up here so you guys can see everything that we've got done and accomplished so far. So let me just get this stuff over to the side. We'll do those things. Put that out of the way. Stuff there for now. That should be plenty of room. And we'll bring this up here. And of course, I will swap the views out. So our printer is looking more and more like a printer every day. We've got our Z-belt installed. We're still a little bit long, so I do need to clip these off flush. Our A and B belts are installed and we're pretty long here as well. I need to go ahead and cut those fairly short. But everything is moving well. Our gantry is de-racked side to side. Well, there's a little bit right here, but there's a little bit after running the belts. We had de-racked it before we ran the belts. So this little bit right here is just the little bit off that these belts are on each side. So we can fix that by tensioning the front or tensioning our belts. And we'll take that little bit of racking out. Other than that, everything's good. We still have our stoppers at the top. We do have some Z-rail stops that we can put up here. So we'll need to work on those. But the next stream, which will be Saturday, we're going to do the electronics. And then on Tuesday, we're going to build our stealth burner and get our stealth burner installed on Tuesday. So that'll give me a chance to print all the stealth burner parts that I'm going to need. I've been trying to decide if I'm going to put another Big Tree Tech NAMI on this or not. Ow. I've got one. I think I'm going to put it on here. It's just need to do it. Just need to do it. But we are good. But yeah, and with that, I do want to go ahead and call the stream. Um, we've made some good progress. I am trying to draw this out, I'll say a little bit and not kill myself in the process because quite honestly, with everything going on at work right now, the stress is there. I could just keep building until like 3, 4 in the morning and not blink an eye. But then that would make me miserable the next day, and that would not be good for anybody that needs to deal with me the next day. So with that, let me go ahead and see who is potentially out there and live right now. I'm seeing Ash Monsters playing Baldur's Gate 3. The Jang's got Just Chatting. He's probably doing some type of Lego build. Actually, let me jump over to main Twitch where I can see more. So we went to Sid Hersey last night. Ugly Moo's out there. I'm not sure what he's working on. Let's take a quick gander. Yep, looks like he's doing some more model painting. We got Stims by Sadie. Looks like she's working on a collar for some type of cosplay. Babe Ross, of course, is doing art. The Jang's chatting and most likely doing a city and Star Wars. Don't know what that means. We got Makel Mustafa out there playing Baldur's Gate. Foxen's playing Prey. Hagar the Great's out there. What is he working on? He's working on Darth Vader's castle Lego build. So it kind of sounds like we have some brick builders, and then we have like Babe Ross, who's an oil painting artist, or some people that are working on some cosplay things. I know Baldur's Gate's kind of the big thing right now, but I don't know. What's everybody thinking? Anybody got anything? Okay, seems kind of quiet. I don't think I have that much of a delay on. Maybe a fairly decent delay for some folks. Okay. So yeah, we've tried we did Sid Hersey last night, so we're not going to do him tonight. Let's go ahead and see what Babe Ross is actually working on. I don't think I've gone over to Babe Ross in a little bit. You have no preference, Pete? Okay. Well, with that, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and jump over to Babe Ross. So let me go ahead and get that set up. Okay. And yeah, so thank you everybody so much for coming out and hanging out with me tonight as we worked on the build. We will be back at it Saturday. I'm going to get a couple of parts printed that we were short on today. We'll go ahead and get those printed, and we'll be able to continue on the build. Right now, everything's going well. We haven't had too many snags. So let's just keep building and keep trucking right along. And before we know it, we'll be done. So Saturday stream, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we're going to be focusing on mounting our electronic components and starting to work on all of our electronics. So thank you everybody for being here. Zombie, I'm pretty sure will be on later tonight. So if he is, go hang out with him. Thanks all. We'll see you Saturday. Bye now.